As a franchise owner in professional sports, there are two things that you need to break the bank on. A superstar level player in the NBA, the LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, you know the type of guys I'm talking about. And the other one is a franchise quarterback in the NFL. This is shaping up to be an historic offseason in the NFL for quarterbacks. I have never seen this level of uncertainty throughout the league going into an offseason. You have the Russell Wilson situation in Seattle. Deshaun Watson wants out of Houston. Now, speaking of Deshaun Watson, last week I got a Twitter notification. Captain Woke Shannon Sharp. He's on Twitter claiming credit for breaking the story about Deshaun Watson wanting out of Houston. Said that he broke this story 3 weeks ago. He's not getting credited for it. Dude, we've been talking about that here on the channel since last summer. Even when Deshaun Watson signed his contract extension, we said that eventually he was going to demand to be traded from the Texans. This isn't anything new, Shannon Sharp. This has been going on for a while. You didn't break this story. Anyway, you also have the Dak Prescott saga going on right now in Dallas. But there's one situation that's going on right now that's kind of being ignored, kind of being overlooked, not being talked about as much as all the others. It's the situation going on in Baltimore between Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. Reports are starting to come out of Baltimore that both sides are very far apart in negotiations for an extension. Now, is this a big deal? No, right now, not really. Not a big deal right now, but it can turn into something major if it's not handled correctly. We've seen how quickly things like this can fall apart. Hell, just look at what's going on right now with Deshaun Watson and the Texans. He signed his extension. It hasn't even been a year since he signed on the dotted line, and he already wants out. So the Ravens do need to handle this correctly. We don't know just yet what the problems are with Lamar Jackson and his contract extension. Now, if I had to guess, it's likely about money and the length of the contract. I imagine that he wants top 5 quarterback money, which would be around $40 million a year. Do the Ravens want to pay him that much money? I don't know. Is Lamar Jackson worth that much money? Now, that's a matter of opinion. If you've been following me here on the channel for a while, then you already know that I'm not really all that high on Lamar Jackson. Look, there's no denying his talent. There's no denying his success. He's 30-7 as a starter in the regular season. He's led the Ravens to the playoffs 3 straight years. His stats are good. On paper, Lamar Jackson is a franchise quarterback. My biggest concerns with him is the inefficiency in the passing game and mainly longevity. I've been saying for 2 years that Lamar Jackson needs to develop into a better pocket passer. Now, he's improved. To his credit, he has improved. But he is far from where he needs to be in the pocket. Some will blame this on the fact that he doesn't have a great group of receivers. Now, the Ravens, they do need to get him some better weapons offensively. But you can't blame the receivers. This is on Lamar Jackson. A franchise quarterback is expected to elevate the players around him. For the bulk of his time in New England, Tom Brady wasn't throwing to all-pro Hall of Fame receivers. Same with Drew Brees in New Orleans. They elevated the guys around him. Tom Brady turned Danny Amendola into a star. Lamar Jackson's not doing that. He isn't elevating the players around him. The Ravens finished 2020 last in the league in passing yards. Lamar Jackson averaged 172 yards a game passing. Last season was a struggle for him, for the most part anyway. Once the Titans gave the NFL the blueprint to stop him defensively, the rest of the league followed. In a passing league, coaches expect their quarterbacks to be able to efficiently pass the ball. At this point in his career, Lamar Jackson just can't do that consistently. I mentioned the longevity with him a second ago. That's really my biggest concern with Lamar Jackson. And something I'm sure that the Ravens front office is considering in these contract negotiations. The truth is, running quarterbacks just don't last long in the NFL. Lamar Jackson is a run-first quarterback. That is his style of play. He takes a lot of hits. I'm sure one of the big hang-ups in these negotiations is guaranteed money. That's what all NFL players want, guaranteed money. You can sign a $500 million contract. If only $50 million is guaranteed, that's all you can count on. And like I said, I'm just speculating at this point because we don't have much information, but guaranteeing hundreds of millions of dollars to a quarterback that takes hits like Lamar Jackson does has got to cause some trepidation for the Ravens. Thus far, he's been durable. He hasn't missed any games due to injury. One hit can change all of that and can change the trajectory of his career. Just look at RG3, Robert Griffin III. He was a run-first quarterback, just like Lamar Jackson. He was unstoppable for a year or two. Gets a bad knee injury, he was never the same. Same thing with Cam Newton, another guy who never developed into a pocket passer, relied on his size and his athleticism. Then he gets a bit older, body starts to break down, and after his terrible performance in New England last year, who in the hell even knows if Cam Newton's going to be in the NFL next season? I don't feel like John Harbaugh is doing Lamar Jackson any favors by catering the Ravens' offense around his ability to run the football. For years, Ron Rivera tried to get Cam Newton to buy into being more of a pocket passer. That's what John Harbaugh should be doing with Lamar Jackson, developing him. Another thing that the Ravens have to consider, look at what happened with both the Eagles and the Rams. They gave Carson Wentz and Jared Goff extensions with big money, franchise quarterback money. And 2 years later, here we are, and both of them are traded. Wentz and Goff were traded because their production dropped. So the Ravens not only had to be careful to not upset Lamar Jackson in these negotiations, but they also had to think long term. There's no doubt in my mind Baltimore believes that Lamar Jackson can be their franchise quarterback. But have we really seen enough from him that warrants paying him $40, $45 million a year? This is kind of a catch-22 for the Ravens. Lamar Jackson still has 2 years left on his contract, but going into the fourth season for franchise quarterbacks is usually the point where they get their extension. If the Ravens wait until next offseason to pay Lamar Jackson, it's just going to cost them more money. And if they go ahead and do it this offseason, and he continues to struggle like he did for portions of last year, maybe things get worse. He goes the route of Carson Wentz and Jared Goff. Then you're in a situation where you're overpaying your quarterback and looking to trade him. One thing is certain. Lamar Jackson is worth more money than the damn near $2 million that he's supposed to make this year. He's worth more money than that. And if he were smart, he would go out and hire him an agent. I didn't know this until today, but Lamar Jackson doesn't have an agent. He's never had an agent, which isn't the smartest thing when you're negotiating a contract worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Like I said earlier, the Ravens have to be careful here. You want to pay Lamar Jackson fairly. You want to keep him, but you also want to protect yourself long term. What you don't want this situation is to get out of hand, for this to turn into a disaster like Deshaun Watson in Houston. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. I think they'll eventually get a deal done. Unlike the Texans, the Ravens are a well-run organization. You don't win consistently in the NFL for 20-plus years unless you're a well-run franchise. But these contract negotiations can spiral out of control quickly. And it seems like we're in the middle of a revolution in the NFL where players are starting to utilize their power. We'll see what happens in Baltimore. But like I said, I think that we will see the Ravens and Lamar Jackson get a deal done eventually this offseason. Now, what do you guys think? Is Lamar Jackson a franchise quarterback? Do you think he's a franchise quarterback? And is he worth $40 million a year? Sound off in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com. KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys tomorrow.